15th, 2015 at 7:01 p.m. Please rise for the invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Dear God, we start by thanking you for all of the blessings you have given us. We are blessed to live in a city where our streets are patrolled by police officers, where we have excellent fire and EMS services, our rubbish is picked up, our street lights are lit, our library is excellent, just to name a few. But our greatest blessing is the people of Eastpointe who make these things a possibility. Please continue to watch over our residents and know that when we work together, our possibilities are limitless. It is in your name we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Gostella.
Here.
Councilmember Kleinfeld.
Here.
Councilmember LaForest.
Here.
Mayor Pixley. Absent.
Okay, it's time for a first hearing of the public. Does anybody wish to be heard? Mr. Marion.
John Marion, 24320 Grove, is on behalf of my dog to let you know we've got a couple more etiquette classes scheduled for this month. The 23rd, which is Wednesday at 6:30 at Rare, and then the 26th, Saturday at 2 o'clock, also at Rare. And speaking of Rare, this Friday, you can't miss it. From 4 to 7 is their grand opening, open house. You got to stop in there and check out this facility. I think they did a phenomenal job. We're still putting, some punch list items out the window, but for the most part, if you got to check out this senior center on the east end of this building. It's phenomenal. It's got the wow factor when you walk in there, and it's going to really be appreciative, I think, by the residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marion. Does anybody else wish to be heard? No? Please come to the podium and give your name. Yes, ma'am. Please come to the podium.
Sorry to say that I missed last meeting, but I'm Kay Moore, and I live at 22085 Boulder Avenue in Eastpointe. And I wanted to compliment the council for moving so quickly on getting signs and police presence on our street for a couple of weeks. And it was amazing how many stops they made, and I would be really curious if the police department would let us know during that time frame how many stops they did know. But as soon as the sign went away and the police presence went away, the speedsters came right back, and they don't stop at all. They still race down the street, they still go through the stop signs, and they still are a havoc to the children that live in our area on Boulder Street. So I'm requesting that maybe the council would consider asking the police force to again put their presence obvious and maybe make heavier fines. Maybe that would help some more. And that's my complaint. And I thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anybody else wish to be heard? Seeing none, the first hearing of the public is closed. And let's go on to item number 3, the approval of the minutes. Can I have a motion, please?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, I'll motion to approve the regular meeting minutes of September 1st, 2015.
Support.
Moved and supported. Any discussion? Questions? Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico.
Yes.
Councilmember LaForest.
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Gostella.
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld.
Yes.
Item 4, scheduled hearings, we have none. Under 5, unfinished business, none. So we go on to item 6, reports from administration. So we start with our Assistant City Manager.
Actually, Your Honor, I have nothing to report tonight. That the manager didn't leave me a checklist or anything, so unless the council has some questions or something they need me to look into.
Does anybody have anything?
I have nothing.
I have a few items.
Okay.
First off, number 1, we've been getting we've all received several requests from Father Stan over at St. Veronica's with regards to the deterioration of curbs, sidewalks, roads in that area. Bless you, has anybody contacted him or been out there to take a look at that? And if not, could we have somebody please
I think we have.
get in touch with him and
I was going to say, I think Mr. Pry has been out there to talk to Father Stan.
okay,
Well, I should say which time.
correct. I mean, addressing the most recent letter that we got in our packet this week.
2 weeks ago, he's claiming our street sweeper, when we went over there to sweep streets, that we knocked all his curb out on Universal. When I went out there, it's his parking lot sliding into the road. But he's also looking for all new sidewalks, he's looking for all new streets, he's looking for all new curbs. And it's not, are the roads bad? Yes. I have much worse roads, and this has been addressed with him. He's not into email, so everything is done by letter form, so, no, we're not doing it right now. That would be the easiest way to put it.
But it looks like we have been in communication
Okay,
with him.
and
Yes,
that was
and the other thing
the
is,
main
part of this is, we got gas going through there, so a lot of his sidewalk is probably gonna get replaced, and the intersection at Topher and Redmond, we're not gonna just throw away money right now till we get through it.
My biggest concern was that, to make sure that somebody was in contact with him.
Many a times.
And I appreciate that, thank you.
On that, just one question. I remember we talked about that at a previous meeting, and the city manager said that a portion of the curb was fixed, and I've driven by, and I can't figure out where, it doesn't look like any of
Just
the curb is
from
brand new.
just north of the rectory, where you go into the school, a whole section of road was put in there, curb to curb, where we had the water main break, including part of his sidewalk.
Which street is that then?
What's the street that
Universal?
splits at
The
Universal?
one-way?
The
Yeah.
one-way street. Yeah, right in the middle of the street. You can't miss it. It's all brand, everything's asphalt except the concrete we put from curb to curb, including the sidewalk in front of the church.
When was that done?
Last fall.
Okay. We made it sound like something was done this year after we got these letters. Maybe he did mean that it was last year then. but-
No, and we're doing the back street right now, that whole intersection, because that intersection's coming apart. We even went as far as seeing if we could get CDBG funds to help us with it, doing something over there, and the funds aren't available for it, doesn't qualify. And just walking it, looking at it, if we do everything that he wants out there, we're probably talking in excess of $2 million to fix what he's looking for.
Sure. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pry. Another thing that I thought was kind of interesting, in our packet, we received an application, a board and commission application from a non-resident. And I don't believe he's a business owner, as far as I could tell in the application. A non-resident. He is a business owner. Oh, he is a business owner? Okay, that's why I just wanted to make sure, because I was thinking, obviously the next question is, why would he accept the application? But he is a business owner. Okay,
DDA, and he wants to go on the DDA board.
perfect, thank you, because,
And we need,
right. Oh, no, and that's why I had it down there, unless he's a DDA business owner, why would we accept this? So, but on the application, it didn't say that he was a business owner.
okay.
But, okay, thank you for that clarification, Ms. Lintz. Recreation Authority, the fee, there's a fee for using the fitness center. And it's gonna be like $75 a year for residents to use the fitness center. Is that a normal thing where, when our residents are paying for this facility, that they also have to pay to use it? And,
I think that fee is under discussion, so I don't know if that's been decided, that's still being discussed, right?
okay,
Yeah, I think that's being changed by the board.
okay, and I think that would be a wise idea, if possible.
I think they're looking more of a non,
Yes, that would, okay, thank you. And then, Music in the Plaza, I asked for council to be given the information about the costs involved that we've had here for Music in the Plaza. And just a little history, 3 years ago, council made a mandate that if it's not paid for, we don't do it. That was a council directive. And 2 years ago, Rizzo covered all the music 100%. Last year, there was hit and miss sponsorship. This year, there was virtually no sponsorship. So I am of the ilk that we need to get back to the mandate the council established years ago. And, you know, if it's not paid for, we shouldn't be doing it, quite frankly. I mean, that was over $10,000 that the city paid for that had virtually no income coming from that. And I think we need to get back to doing that, because we don't want to fall into the same pratfalls that got us into deeper financial trouble than what the taxable value decrease did to us.
I believe that's the intent. I think this year we had, Rizzo kind of pulled out at the last moment, and we had everything booked. So the intent is to get the sponsorship so we can do that.
Right, and it, quite frankly, for me, it needs to be more than intent. It needs to happen, or we just don't do it.
Correct.
That's just my view on it, and that's the view that the council established years ago.
Can I ask then just a quick, it could be like brief, like the one that we received, if we get like last year's and the year before, then to see what, Mr. Blum, the donations were for the other years, to have an idea of where it came from, and then going forward, just so we know. Thank you.
And I think that's all I have. Anybody else? And then let's move on to the finance director.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem and Council. I would like to head off a few questions. When the payroll and bills are approved, it will be $11.9 million. $10.1 million is tax disbursements to other places. We're not spending that kind of money. Just want to point that out. The other thing is, I cannot believe that the assistant city manager did not mention this, but Colonial Dodge closed today. We are not the owners of it anymore. And he should have been.
I was still reveling over the fact I got to sign the paperwork.
I was excited to hold that check in my hand.
I thought I'd be retired before that happened, but
That is a done deal, and that's actually all I've got. So.
Does anybody have anything for the finance director? I have one thing, and at our last meeting, we approved the administrative rules and regulations, and I think in part, we approved it based on the estimated cost value to the city of being $7,000 to $8,000. And now, we've all received the additional information that shows that the cost value is almost quadruple that. It's at $31,000 is what it's going to cost the city to meet the criteria of these rules and regulations.
Correct.
To me, that's a significant difference, and I wanted to know if council would be interested in, maybe taking another look at the administrative rules and regulations, even though we approved them last week. And the first question, I guess, would be to Rich, is that, are we able, since we approved them, can we go back and revisit them? Sure. And so that's why I wanted to present that to council tonight, because of that somewhat substantial difference, if we would be interested in taking another look at that. And I'd like to hear from council, and if Mr. Blum has anything to jump in there with.
Well, in fact, you're right. It had quadrupled, the number had quadrupled, and I'm glad you brought that up, Mr. Gastella. I think it's something that should be addressed, and we should have a discussion about it. So yes, I am definitely open to it.
I agree. I mean, I think we didn't really have figures, and we approved it really quickly because of a kind of a spitball number, so.
Right. So perhaps we can have that on our next agenda item as at least a discussion topic, if that's okay.
I will relay that.
Thank you. Anything else for the finance director? Okay, our city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem and members of council. I only had one item this evening, and it's a request by city administration to schedule show cause hearings. This request is larger than normal. It actually consists of 9 different properties. I know that when we've had requests of this size, that the council has actually scheduled a separate night. I believe it's typically Monday evenings, to conduct those show cause hearings. But yeah, I have requests for 9 different properties.
What would be the earliest date that we'd go ahead with that?
We have to give at least 10 days' notice for the hearings.
That get you into October?
So I guess before we say a date, I was going to say later in the meeting, I'll be out for my job, out of the country actually, from the 16th to the 31st next month. October. So if it's before that or after that, I'd like to be a part of that meeting if possible.
The first 2 Mondays in October are the 5th and the 12th.
School board.
Oh, do they?
First, isn't it the first and, no, it's opposite us, second and fourth? Does that sound right? I think they're opposite of our meetings on Tuesdays, so I think
Yes.
it's the second and the fourth.
That's
So you
correct.
said you were available on the 12th? Because you're going from the 16th.
Yeah, the 12th should work.
Of October, we're gonna push, you wanna go back that far? You don't wanna do them sooner?
That's 25, 28 days.
And maybe, being that this is a 5 Tuesday month, Tuesday, the 29th could be available.
That's possible.
If,
I'd be happy with that, doing the Tuesday,
Tuesday, the
not waiting
29th?
until.
Okay.
September 29th?
Okay, at 6:30?
Okay.
Yeah, that works.
I'll make sure that all the notices go out to all of the property owners and interested parties for September 29th at 6:30.
Do we need to confirm with Mayor Pixley before we send those out?
Yeah, I can send Mayor Pixley an email just confirming her availability for the 29th.
Okay. Because the 28th, there's a conflict. Okay,
All right, thank you. That's all I have
Okay.
this evening.
very good. Okay, anybody have anything else for our city attorney? Let's move on to new business. And our first item is the approval of contract between the Eastpointe Firefighters Association and the City of Eastpointe. And before we consider this, I'd like to have a little discussion. I am not as much concerned about the product in this contract as I am about the process of how we got here. Normally, we have at least one closed session hearing with our negotiator, legal counsel who negotiates the contracts. I don't believe we had one. And this is the first time that we've seen the contract at all. And the process is important for many reasons, but especially is important because we have 2 members sitting at the council table who have not gone through any of these contract talks before. And quite frankly, in the middle of November, we're going to have 2 more new people here. So if the process is not passed on from one council to the next, they're not going to know what the real process is. Now, we had been getting some minor updates that, the negotiations are going well, but the practice and process has always been that council is involved in hearing what is being talked about, offering some opinions, some ideas, some suggestions, and this was not the case with this contract. And therefore, I have some serious issues with the process. Like I say, not necessarily the product, but the process. I mean, I think it's incumbent upon any of the tenured council members to pass on the knowledge of these processes to those that are going to replace them. And to me, I would very much consider making a motion to table this until we do have a closed session with our legal representative during the negotiations. And that's why I wanted to bring this up for discussion before we make a motion here. But I'm not making that motion yet. I just want to hear how the rest of council feels, especially, people that really haven't sat in on any contract talks as of yet.
One thing I would like to say is we did not use Labor Council on these negotiations. We generally only pull them in if we're going to go to arbitration. All negotiations were handled by the city manager, along with myself. That's pretty much it. Lori was taking notes. So there wasn't a closed session with legal counsel to be had because there was no legal counsel involved. Now, if you want to talk about getting updates through the city manager, that's another story. But there would be no, there won't be a closed session because there was no legal counsel.
I believe that we are allowed to have a closed session, correct me if I'm wrong, Rich, for any contract negotiations. So we can
Yes.
go.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Right, so
I'm just saying there won't be an attorney
I
there.
understand.
That's
Okay,
all.
thank you. Your point.
Closed
Well
session would
taken.
be available.
Would be available. You know, my point is that, you know, getting the contract at the table the night we want to approve it, and it's the first time we've seen it, I think is wrong, quite frankly. And I think it does a disservice to our newer council members, that they aren't, you know, they have to be brought in to how the contract negotiation process goes a little bit more involved, because they're the ones that are going to be doing it down the road. So, I mean, I would, you know, definitely, you know, like to hear from the other council members before I go on.
That sounds good to me, and I believe we have 2 more coming, right? So there's, let's make sure we do that process then for those 2. I mean, that sounds reasonable and like a great idea to me, so.
Well, I agree with Mr. Blum that, you know, we generally have these closed-door sessions when arbitration is involved. But with that being said, I also agree with you, Mr. Gastella, that whether arbitration is involved or not, we still need to have these meetings, council meetings, so we are abreast of the contract talks and what was negotiated. So I'm in favor with you, Mr. Gastella. I believe we should table it until we have a meeting. But then again, quite frankly, I mean, the contract was already accepted. So I'm not sure what the point would be at this moment to have a meeting, other than the process and so forth.
Is there any, I mean, I think if I'm understanding, this would be retroactively enforced anyway, so there's not really a reason that we have to vote on it tonight. So we could table it if we felt like we wanted to have. Should we, maybe this is something to think about for next meeting to have on the agenda, but you mentioned like having a directive in the past for, if, you know, if it costs money. Maybe we say if we're going to go into negotiations, we require at least one closed session before something's tentatively signed. Because once it's already here, it kind of seems like it's difficult to backpedal. So,
I agree with you that, I agree that it is difficult to backpedal once you have something signed. By the same token, I do think it's, quite frankly, it undermines the authority of council when these things are done without council's input, involvement. This is in our purview to review this thing, to review the contracts and get it in there before it gets to that point. But you're absolutely right. It is, you know, again, I'm more concerned about process than I am about product, but in good conscience, I can't support this contract tonight without us having a session. And, you know, it sounds like, you know, majority of council feels the same way. So I would go ahead and make a motion then to table the approval of the contract between the Eastpointe Firefighters Association and the City of Eastpointe until such time where we do have a closed session discussion, and then it can be, you know, put on the next agenda.
Support.
I
Moved and
do,
supported. Any other discussion?
yeah, I did want to say one other thing. I mean, do you have any input that you might want to deviate from
There were,
what we have here?
there was one thing to me that was glaring, and obviously, that's a discussion for closed session. But like I say, most of this has to do with process, a little bit with the product, but most of it is a procedural thing. And there is a part of the product that I'm not comfortable with, quite frankly.
And I agree with you 100%. Don't get me wrong. I agree with you. We need to have these discussions pertaining to this process. But again, I'm kind of too little, too late. The contract has already been negotiated. It's already been accepted. I'm not sure what good having a meeting pertaining to this subject after the fact. I'm actually upset, like you, that we didn't have this meeting, but it had already taken place. I'd like to see, as we move forward, that certainly we're not put in the dark, and as these negotiations, contract negotiations continue and go further, that our council is included and we can go through that process. I'm just a little hesitant to vote yes for it right now because I'm trying to understand the purpose of us having this meeting with the contract already being accepted.
I think it just doesn't hurt. It's already been delayed 2 months, so another 2 weeks. I think if we pass it today in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I guess, this time.
The contract isn't valid till council approves it anyways. The council could reject it and send administration back to the bargaining table. So the fact that administration negotiated a contract, the firefighters have ratified it, it's still not an official contract till you guys say it's official. So if there's something you don't like, I mean, that's where the closed session would come in.
Do we have a motion?
Right, I just want to make sure we're done with discussion.
Yep.
Okay, we're done with this?
Yep.
All right, we have a motion in support. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Gostella,
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico,
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld,
Yes.
Councilmember LaForest.
Yes.
Okay, that takes us to item B, the special street lighting assessment discussion. Mr. Blum, I believe this is you.
Yes. The reason this came up is realize that this December will be the third and final year of the current street lighting assessment, and we will have to go through that process again to re-up it. One thing that happened last time was we actually had to publish an 8-page listing of every parcel in the city with the $31.18 next to it, and it cost us over $44,000. We had to do that because of the charter language and how it's worded. So we started talking about we needed to do a charter amendment so we didn't have to do that huge publication, still get the notification out there, but not spend that much money. And we were prepping for throwing it on the March presidential primary. We subsequently found out that the legislature changed or eliminated the February election as a regular election, designated that March date for the presidential primary, but did not designate it as a regularly scheduled election. Therefore, as it stands now, we cannot put this on the March ballot. The legislature, however, is looking at possibly doing a modification where they would basically just rename it a regular election and we'd still be able to get it on. So the idea was that we would proceed anyways as if it's going to go on the March ballot, basically asking council's permission to work with the city attorney to get some charter language before you, get the change approved, and then if we can put it on March, great. If not, it's approved for the August primary and we're ready to go. In the August primary would still be enough time to work through the process and still make it on the December of 16 ballot or tax bill. Just as a note, the 44,000, it was over 44. That's over $3 per parcel that it cost. So even if you spread it over the 3 years, we'll be able to drop the special assessment by at least $1 a parcel by not doing that publication. So that's just information, and all we're doing is looking for direction and permission on this one.
I think I had a question or concern. I guess I was trying to determine this by looking at past minutes, or I even found a press release from when we did this. I must be mistaken, but I thought this whole special assessment was to help cover capital costs, and I didn't know that we would be interested in renewing it. I thought this was to cover the switch to LED. Our press release here says, we want to help improve the lighting efficiency. I thought the $100 or $200 a street light would be savings going forward, would offset the costs of needing this. I thought this was just to switch them.
It covers both the electric bill to run the lights plus the cost of the conversion. So the first 3 year, we were paying $385,000 a year to DTE just to have the lights on. So it covered that $385,000 plus the first year covered the $44,000 ad. After that, it then we went through and did the LED. So the cost of the lighting is coming down. We've done Gratiot. We've got 10 Mile done. Most of 9 Mile. I'm trying to think what else. There's still quite a bit, though, with like Stevens, Kelly. We want to get the residentials done, so there'd still be some more capital in the next few years. The anticipation is we would get another 3 years to cover capital, and then at that point, it would go to just cover the DTE bill, which has already dropped from $385 a year down to about, it's in the $290s right now with all the LED conversions. That's why I said it'll drop at least $1 by eliminating the publication. I expect it to drop even further once we get everything calculated. But the idea, though, is that this would continue in perpetuity to cover the cost of keeping the lights on. So there's just a little bit extra in the first few years to do the capital portion.
So then why was 3 years chosen before? Is that a limit?
To get some of the projects done, and because we didn't want to do a 15-year assessment when, well, we were hoping to get savings and be able to decrease it, plus you don't know what DT is going to do with pricing. You don't want to really do a long-term assessment and find out it's not enough. So it was just first go around, 3 year shot at it. Once we're converted, we might be able to do a little bit longer assessment.
Okay. But I guess at least that's slightly, I guess, off topic for what you wanted to bring up today, was just so we can, if in the future any special assessment occurs, we don't have to do this, I'll call it ridiculous,
Yes.
publication in the newspaper. If we change the charter somehow, especially if we're, this is what I had in my notes, if we're, are you looking for, because I guess, we should probably notify somehow, and a lot of folks, of course, probably still need one in the paper. I still think the East Sider is better than the Macomb Daily. I know I've mentioned that before, but if everyone's going to be charged the same thing, we shouldn't have to list every address. Can we just amend to do that, and then that's probably much cheaper, a few
Right, and
$100.
that's what I was going to talk with Rich about. The other thing is we could still do, we could do a postcard notification. Right now, we have to do either a registered letter or an ad in the paper. If we eliminate the registered letter part, we could send a postcard to every resident or every parcel for, I think I did the quick calculation on the current rates, it'd be about $5,000 with printing.
Yep.
Versus $44,000 for the ad. Plus, we can still put a notification in the paper that it'd just be a citywide notice and not an individual parcel. But we're just looking to get some flexibility built into these rules, because it would apply to any special assessment, not just street lighting.
It sounds like a good way to go.
Yeah.
Is there any state law that comes into play for this kind of thing? I know we have this in the charter, but
Right.
because obviously we can save all 44,000 if we don't publish anything, but I'd
Correct.
assume there's some sort of,
The
Ultimately-
state law that lets us do it says you can do a street lighting special assessment if you have a special assessment within your charter. So because we have it in our charter, we have to follow our process. As long as we have some process or some special assessment section, we can do the street lighting per state law. They don't dictate how we do it.
The language, the charter amendment language has to be approved by the Attorney General's office, though, and ultimately okay by the governor. So the state would be aware of any change that the city was attempting to make.
okay.
And we have to have that approval before it can go on the ballot.
And if you're really shooting and we're allowed to use the March date, time is coming close to get that in.
Well, it seems reasonable to me, so I'll motion to direct,
Sorry. This was just a discussion tonight. Did we need a motion on this?
Well, yeah, we were actually looking to have council basically direct the city attorney and administration to talk on this topic.
Then go ahead, Mr. Kleinfeld. Stand corrected.
I'll motion to direct the city attorney to work with the city administration and prepare language for a charter change regarding publication of special assessments.
Support.
Moved and supported. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember LaForest? Mayor Pro Tem Gostella?
Yes. Payroll and bills. I'll make the motion to pay the bills in the amount of $11,938,106.42.
Support.
Moved and supported. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Pro Tem Gostella?
Yes.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
Councilmember LaForest?
Yes.
It's time for the second hearing of the public. Does anybody else wish to be heard at this time? Please come to the podium. State your name. Oh, when you get there. I'm sorry, when you get to the podium.
Geraldine Stabrilla.
Thank you.
I received my house payment, and my taxes went up tremendously, $610 for the year. And I came in, and my water bill's up to date. I don't know why I went so high. Both sides of me went up a couple hundred. The gentleman across the street has an acre. I talked to him, and his went up just a couple hundred. I'm on Topher. I'm 15,000 Topher. And I just wanted to ask, find out if maybe someone made a mistake, or, I don't know, but my payment went up quite a bit.
We can't address you directly right now, but we can when we make our comments.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Does anybody else wish to be heard? Sure, come to the podium.
One of my concerns has been, and I know that there are many people that would back me on this issue, is the control of live fireworks in our city. And at one time when I inquired about it, I was told that we could do nothing as a city because the state really set the mandate. But in the interim now, the state is trying to backtrack on this and get rid of it. So can Eastpointe be a leader and get rid of our requirements, or at least that we can eliminate fireworks except only for the day of the holiday instead of 10 days before or 5 days after? Because it's terrible. It accepts all our animals, not just mine. Can it be a consideration? How do I put that before you so that you would talk about it?
You just have.
Okay, good.
Thank you, Ms. Moore. Anybody else wish to be heard? Seeing none, the second hearing of the public is closed, and we'll begin with the mayor and council reports. We'll start with Mr. Kleinfeld.
First thing I want to say is I was looking forward to the ribbon cutting at the rec center on Friday. Unfortunately, I won't be able to make it because I have a wedding that day, but I do plan to stop in and see how the facilities look. And I just wanted to wish or congratulate my parents because they celebrated their 30th yesterday. So that's all I have.
This month, too.
Thank you, Mr. Kleinfeld. Mr. DeMonico.
Well, funny you mention that. My parents are celebrating their 30th anniversary this month also. In 12 days. I was going to leave that for last, but happy anniversary, Mom and Dad. That's funny. And hope everyone had a great Labor Day. I did. I went up to the UP and saw my in-laws, who actually, funny enough, their anniversary is actually the same as my parents' anniversary, but 11 years difference, so happy 41st anniversary to them. I don't know what the probabilities of that was, but that was funny when we found that out. Hope the mayor and the city manager are learning a lot, having a good time at the MML convention, the Michigan Municipal League. I think that's a really great organization. I've learned a lot, so they'll be getting their money's worth there, and it'll be nice to hear about that. And then, the rare grand opening, that'll be great, 4 to 7 p.m. again, just in case anyone missed it, on Friday, 18185 Sycamore. I will be there. That should be a good time. And on Monday, September 28th, is Salute to Excellence that the Chamber throws. We give awards out to our great policemen, firefighters, business owners, all that kind of thing. If you can come, $25 a ticket, 5:30 p.m. on Monday, September 28th at Eastpointe Manor. RSVP with the Chamber by the 24th of the month, and hope to see you there. And then October 3rd, Saturday, October 3rd, usual first Saturday of the month, Sarah Roberts will be doing her coffee hour, 9 a.m. at the coffee break. And as I said earlier, I'll be missing the second October meeting because I have to travel for work. So I will not be at that meeting. And that's all I had, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mr. DeMonico. Mr. LaForest.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem. I'd like to address Ms. Moore pertaining to the speeders. You are absolutely right. When the apparatus is in the street, it does curtail the speeders flying down the street, and once they're gone, they're back to speeding again. Interesting enough, though, I have spoke with several residents in different parts of the neighborhood, and not sure if it's a foolproof thing, but what we have found out is that neighbors have gotten together and they've actually got those little children stands, children at play, and they put them by their cars. And ironically enough, enough neighbors did it, and for some reason, when a driver comes down the street and they see one of these children at play signs by a car, the automatic thing to do is to slow down. I'm not saying it can work in your neighborhood. I'm saying that it's something that you can probably give it a try. We've done it on my block, and I can tell you it works. We do not have that problem, and it seems that people are just really focused and not thinking while they're driving, and they're speeding and not knowing it, but that will surely catch their eye, and it will slow them down. So that's an alternative maybe that you can try. You can purchase them at Toys R Us and at probably any kid outlet, and they're fairly cheap. You get them for like $5-7. But we've done that, and believe it or not, it seems to work. So, you know, a lot of residents want that speed radar apparatus on their block. Because there is a speeding problem, and the same thing, once it's gone, the speeders are back. So neighbors are actually starting to band together, and they're purchasing these things, and they're putting them out by the side of their cars, and it's working. So it might be something that you want to try. And okay. The next thing I want to address is my dog. Mr. Marion, I have been talking to a whole lot of people about my dog, and I think there's still a lot of people out there with animals who are not aware of the dog park. I was really surprised. So I'm just kind of wondering if there's other ways or other means that we can kind of get to the residents to let them know where they can take these classes at. Because I think we're missing quite a few people. Because people that I spoke to, one, they didn't even know we had a dog park. And two, they knew we had a dog park, but they didn't know that you had to have a key fob to get into the park. So, I don't know, maybe we can do something to get the word out a little bit better. Rec Center, of course, ribbon cutting, I will be there. Tomorrow is Meet the Candidate, 8K Homeowners Association at 7 p.m., Pleasant View Elementary. And For Ms. Geraldine, pertaining to the fireworks, we did pass a resolution here in the state, on council and send it up to the state of Michigan. I don't know if, well, maybe later Rich Albright can address any of your concerns. I'm not sure what more we can do as a council at this point to maybe strengthen our ordinance a little bit more pertaining to the fireworks. And I think that is all I have. Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. LaForest. First off, Mr. Briller, with regard to your taxes, the difference is probably the Samorsa tax that we all incurred with the millage that was passed back in February. That is probably what your difference is, why your taxes went up so much. If you compare this to your tax bill from the previous year, there will be no line that says Samorsa, and that is that the group, for our public safety. And everybody got an increase with the bill this time around, and that's what the bulk of it is from. So if you would compare that to your last bill from last year at this time, there will be no line item that says Samorsa. It shows up on this one, and that is for our public safety. That's what was passed back in February by our voters, and that's what the difference is probably in your bill. Yeah, that'll be the bulk of it. Yeah, with regard to the fireworks, I mean, we have to defer to the state, unfortunately, on that. We have other ordinances that we try to enforce with regards to noise and things like that, but those are very difficult to enforce. The best thing is for the state to do the right thing and change back to how things used to be.
It actually has to come from the state because the state has preempted that area of regulation by municipalities. So the city is very limited in what regulations they can come up with on their own.
Thank you, Rich. Additionally, a couple of notes from the library. At our last meeting, I mentioned that they were having an adult coloring club, because that's the new rage that's going on across the country. They had over 17 people show up to color at the library, and this is going to be a regular event that they're going to have there. On October 3rd, they're having a silent auction. The bidding takes place from 5:30 to 6:30. The Friends are putting this on. This will be themed baskets, quilt, and art. Everybody's talked about the Senior Center grand opening. Unfortunately, I'm out of town, so I can't be there, but I do plan on getting over there to check out all the new facilities. And hopefully the parking lot issue has gotten satisfactorily resolved, because we know that in our packet, we got some information on that didn't quite get exactly what we paid for on that. So hopefully that the contractor will do right and do the job that he was paid to do, and hopefully Rare will accept nothing less than that. Okay, we talked about the Salute to Excellence on the 28th, meet the candidates night tomorrow night. A couple things I just want to touch on. Fiscal responsibility has been a pretty much a common theme for me. We cannot go back to the ways that got us into near financial ruin. No question that taxable values contributed heavily and mostly to that, but also some poor decisions that took place many years ago that we were paying for up till recently. We can't undo the positive changes that have helped our city get on solid financial ground. We can't expect our residents to bail Eastpointe out of any future financial crises. Yes, record drops in taxable values of homes and decisions by the state that helped cripple municipalities played enormous roles in the financial downturn. However, bad decisions and bad choices also played a part. Some of these we can't control, but the things that we can control, we must. Too many people have put in too much time, energy, and money over the past several years. To undo all that has been done would be unconscionable. And lastly, Wednesday, September 23rd, will mark the one-year anniversary of the passing our friend and colleague Bill Sweeney. For the most part, I think Bill would be happy with what we have accomplished, with some of the highlights being the sledding hill at Spindler Park. He wanted things for our kids to do. The many road repairs that we continue to undertake. Bill believed in investing in infrastructure. And at the top of the list, the passing of SMORSA that not only made our city financially solvent for years to come, but because it showed the state legislature a to hell with you attitude, that we were able to get out from underneath our mess despite the total lack of help from Lansing. We think of you often, Bill, and we miss you even more. And, no. And former Fire Chief Danny Hagan's father passed away. Condolences to Danny Hagan. And with that, I will take a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Support. Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilmember DeMonico?
Yes.
Councilmember LaForest? Mayor Pro Tem Gwastella?
Yes.
Councilmember Kleinfeld?
Yes.
And our meeting is adjourned at 7:51.